wars. He was a bombardier on a B-17 bomber in World War II, and he served in the Korean War. So this man, Paul, probably came by service pretty naturally growing up in that household. Paul attended college in Illinois, took a job as a salesperson in the medical field, sold a very specialized medical equipment for 25 years, moved back to California, took a new job, new territory for Paul. And it was at that point, Paul had been doing this for a long time. He had the incredible luck of meeting a young woman on his travels who lived in Yakima and brought Paul to Yakima. And Paul and Christy have been together for over 10 years. Paul and Christy have 2 children. They have a grandchild. Paul really took a while for Paul to get used to Yakima from California, but he's really grown to love everything Yakima has to offer and all the people that are here. Paul loves music. He likes blues and classical. Paul likes to hike. He likes to ski. He likes to backpack. He also loves tennis, which is how I met Paul. I got to share a story about Paul and me, and I tell you that the randomness of the world happened for Paul and I last Friday. I'm sitting at a traffic stop sign. A car comes speeding down the street and careens off the road and goes right through the front window of a woman's house. Paul came running over. He called 911. I took pictures of the person that had done this to this woman's house. It was a hit and run. He backs out. His car was impaled in this woman's front window. Paul was so calming to her. She was, as you can imagine, hysterical. She was sitting in her living room when this car came through her front window. I went and cut 3 pieces of plywood. We got the house all secured, but at that moment I realized that, Paul and I came together for a reason. We're both Rotarians. We both did that service above self at that particular moment. As every Rotarian in this room, I'm so we're all lucky to have everyone in this room as Rotarians, and we're really lucky to have Paul join us in this club as our newest Rotarian. President Aaron, Paul Trotter.
Welcome, Paul. We're so excited to have you here as a downtown Rotarian, and we have a few gifts for you. One is our red badge. So this, we call everybody with a red badge Red Badgers. But you go through you'll get a little passport, and you go through some educational things that'll get you your blue badge. We have our updated blue book. This has names and information, contact information for not only our club, but the other 2 clubs. A plaque that you can proudly hang in your office or wherever, in your living room or whatnot. And we welcome you to the club. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Jim. I just want to say we had a board meeting this morning, and we now have 2 official names for President-elect Jim. It's either Jimmy D. or J-Dog, so you choose one. And he also informed us he's now the new owner of Turtle Construction, right? Yeah. He has a honey-do list that's taking him a while to get through, is that right? Well, is Juanita here? We had planned on having a guest here to share their experience in our Healthy Futures President's Program, but I think the snow has created some complications in getting here in time, so we'll be sure to bring them next week to share an update, a family who's experienced receiving these recipes and healthy ingredients in order to try new recipes, in order to work with their kids and learn about eating right to fight childhood obesity. And we have several partners: Yakima Valley Farm Workers Clinic, La Casa Hogar, ESD 105, the Tatawaks, and Multi-Care Act Childhood Obesity Program. So be looking forward to an update next week when we can make sure someone can be here. Is she here? Do we mind if she comes up and shares? This is what this is me living what someone told me once, is when you're president, you got to be flexible and think on your feet. And a day like this is definitely that day.
Thank you so much. So my name is Juanita. I work for Multicare Memorial, and I coordinate the ACT program, which is a childhood obesity program that helps kids that get a referral from their doctor with the BMI higher of an 85%. And it is a 12-week program, so it's not just a one-time. Kids come back every often 12 weeks for 1 hour. And the program helps not just with the nutrition, but also with the physical activity part. We do host those classes at the YMCA. And the very first half hour is amazing because the kids get to have a physical activity with the parents, so they play with the parents, and they're just very happy to do that. It also reminds the parents to be kids once again with their children and play. During the second half hour, the kiddos stay doing more physical activity, and we take the parents to a support group. We talk about all the challenges that they're facing with their kids and either nutrition or with the physical activity. And as a group, as parents dealing with the same challenges, they get to help each other. So it's another amazing moment where they get to talk about different topics during the 12 weeks. And then in the last set of the class, the kids reunite with the families, and we teach them how to do healthy meals. So we don't just give them out the recipe, but we also bring in the food, and the kids get to cook it with the parents. They get to try new fruits and vegetables. And it's just an exciting, nice moment where they get to do it for 12 weeks. During the time, they're able to have a membership of the YMCA as a family, not just the child, not just the parent, but all the family members in the household. And they get to take advantage of all the activities at the YMCA. And it just reunites them as a family. It opens it up to the whole family to think about a long and a new lifestyle with fruits and vegetables. And all of that is thanks to the foundation. Erin here, as the CEO over there, has really been able to make the families be available. If they are not able to pay for the membership at the YMCA, we have scholarships for that as well. And one of the amazing things that we had to add for this fall session was the Rotary, the future, Healthy Futures. They were able to get a bag of food twice a month, and some of the families were just really excited. The very first bag that they received was the recipe, the food, fruits and vegetables, and it was in English and Spanish. They were also able to get some cooking utensils. They had knives, little cutting boards, and it was just an amazing experience for the family. So I do have Beatriz, she was one of the recipients of those bags for the food. And I'm just going to translate this, but who better than a family to share their story, how their family was able to receive this, and then also what their children had to say. So Beatriz, muchas gracias por venir. Queremos saber tu experiencia con las bolsas de la comida que recibiste. So Beatriz, thank you for being here. We would like to see if you would share your experience by receiving those bags.
Buenas tardes.
Good
Mi nombre
afternoon.
es Beatriz Blanco. Mi experiencia con Rotary, la felicidad cuando agarras las bolsas de comida y saber que estás agarrando algo nutritivo, cosas buenas para el bienestar de mi familia, y el convivir con los niños, con mi esposo, con mi mamá, y comer saludable es una experiencia muy bonita. Y también me ayuda. Me iba a traducir. Perdón. Lo siento.
No, I'm just trying to remember everything she said.
Sí.
So.
Lo siento.
So she said the experience of just receiving the bag, it was very emotional, very happy, and to share it not just with her daughter, who's in the program, but also with her family, with her husband, and even with her mom, was just a really neat experience. ¿Te quedaste en lo de la experiencia con de recibirlo con tu mamá y con tus hijos.
Sí. También me ha ayudado a saber, reconocer cuando voy a la tienda, a saber qué voy a agarrar, ver lo que voy a comprar y todo eso, porque anteriormente, no sabía mucho de nutrición.
It also helped me to figure out and to get some ideas of what to go to the grocery store and what to look for, because before I wasn't really, I didn't know what to get, and especially being nutrition or healthy.
Y cambiamos nuestras vidas en la forma de comer y ahora sabemos qué elegir con los niños, con mi esposo, con mi madre y así cada día vamos variando las diferentes comidas saludables.
It also gave me the opportunity to be able to change the recipes around, to be able to know what to purchase, especially to be able to bring it on as a family, not just with their husband, but they're also including the mom.
Y también me enseñé a tener una rutina de ejercicio, comer saludable, hacer ejercicio, porque al hacer ejercicio y comer saludable te hace sentir mejor.
It also helped me to be not just with the nutrition, but with the physical activity. It taught me the skills of the physical activity, because the eating healthy and the exercise makes you feel better.
Y también me puse muy feliz cuando agarramos las bolsas de comida, que también nos dieron por los trastes, las tablitas, los cuchillos, y muy emocionada me sentí ese día. Y todos los días que recibía las bolsas, muy contenta, y todo lo hemos usado.
We have used everything that we received, all the bags, all the cutting utensils, the cutting boards, everything that was given to us. It makes us very happy to be able to use those, not once, but all the time.
Y ahora continuamos comiendo saludable todos los días.
And now we continue eating healthy every single day. Thank you. Gracias. So thank you so much. And I gotta say, it was a proven fact, because when I called her to remind her about the call, she's like, "Oh, I'm at the gym. I totally forgot." So she's like, "I'm on my way." And so thank you so much. Without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. This experience has helped a lot of the families just to continue, not just with the class that we're teaching, but also with the experience of actually getting the items and fixing it as a family and growing with that to make it a lifestyle change. So thank you once again. Thank you, Erin.
Thank you so much. This is a passion, and this is something that we get to do as Rotarians, to give back to the community, and really looking at how do we work with not just the child, but the entire family. And it's fun to hear parents say, well, geez, I didn't know I'd like this type of recipe. And by far the favorite is lasagna soup. It's a vegetarian lasagna soup. I have all the recipes. There's 6 different wonderful recipes that if you want them, I can email them to you. They're fabulous. Even my team at the foundation has tried cooking and eating them all. They love them too. But thank you so much, ladies, for joining us and sharing your experience. I appreciate that so much. Now we have Sergeant at Arms Doug Rich.
President Aaron, fellow Rotarians and guests, welcome to Rotary. You know, I thought it might be a little bit fun today. Once again, our weather has changed on us. I think I sang a song about weather last week, and look what happened. So sorry about the twofer like that. I'll try not to do it next week. I thought we'd have a little bit of fun, just celebrating, guessing who that famous American is. And so I'll be giving you some hints about people. And I want you to use the Rotary 4-way test. If you think you have it, just go ahead and raise your hand. If you don't think you have it when I'm done with the clues, please raise that hand back up with $1 in it for one of our Sergeant at Arms members. So let's make sure I got it right. Who is our first famous American? This person has extensive real estate holdings throughout the United States, which once included a compound on Orcas Island, though now most of the holdings are in Tennessee, where this person was raised. This person received the Kennedy Center of Honors in 2010 and once had a popular TV show and starred in several movies here and there. Can you guess that famous American? I'm hearing Dolly Parton over here. Any other guesses out there in the audience? Oprah Winfrey. There you go. So if you didn't think it was Oprah, please pay $1. Okay, this next famous person is a Royal Shakespearean actor, voice actor, and starred in several, generic movies, shall we say. Received the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1993 and received the prestigious OBE Award in 2001. This person is an international ambassador for pit bulls. Can you guess who this famous person is? Who said Picard? Bammo! Sir Patrick Stewart, who, by the way, made a ton of money in advertising when he did the Bernita motto called "Make It So." Make it, oh, never mind. Okay. Our third famous person is the musical voice of a generation, known for high-energy shows for over 50 years. A superstar in the 80s through the 2000s in music, movies, multiple awards, including the Kennedy Center Honors in 2005. Can anyone guess who this famous American is? Mary Tyler Moore is a guess, which is not right. George Bush once called her the most famous legs in show business. Tina Turner. There you go. And our final famous American is a famous politician, considered a very divisive figure, and managed his own presidential campaign successfully. Have you got it yet? Abraham Lincoln. Who said that? You're awesome. Oh, it's not Abraham. But I also wanted to tell you a little bit more about these four famous people. Oprah Winfrey was raised in a fatherless, poverty-stricken home, raised by her grandmother because the mom could not afford additional children, sexually abused by family members at a very young age, and finally successfully reconnected with her dad later in life. Whoops. Patrick Stewart saw his dad relentlessly abuse his mom, and at one point thought if he could get away with it, he would try to kill his father. Tina Turner, I'm sure we all know the story. She was born Anna Mae Bullock and married Ike Turner and took on the stage name Tina Turner, which was a very abusive relationship for decades. She finally left him, but she wanted to make sure that she kept that name, Tina Turner, when she went out on her own. And even Abraham Lincoln. Mary Todd would throw logs at him if he didn't build the fire right. If he didn't buy the right breakfast meat, she'd come after him, with either a spatula or a frying pan. So please know that even very famous people have had to deal with today's program's topic, and keep them all in your mind. And if you feel so compelled, raise another $1 so that Rotary charities can do good in this society. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. He pulled double duty today, music and Sergeant-at-Arms. Next, I'd like to introduce Sherry Kilty to come up and introduce our panel of speakers.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, President Aaron. It's good to see all of our fellow Rotarians together today. I came to Yakima about 6 years ago. I have spent almost 40 years working in the field of domestic violence. So when I was recruited to come here, I already had a lot of experience about communities about the size of Yakima. And I have to tell you, I was completely shocked to come here and see and learn about the amount of suffering that's happening in our community. So when I first came to the YWCA, where I'm the CEO, we were serving around 6,000 people 7 years ago. Today we're serving 14,000 plus people. So there's a lot of suffering, and domestic violence, as we know, thrives in the silence and the shame of what's happening. And so today we're hoping we can share a little information about the impact of what's happening in our community, and also some of the efforts that are happening and how you all can be a part of that. So I invited some superheroes to join us. So maybe you folks can come up as I'm introducing you. First, we have the Honorable Judge Sonia Rodriguez-True, Honorable Judge Jared Boswell, Yakima Yakima County Prosecutor Joe Brusick, Yakima Police Department Chief Matthew Murray, And I asked Lisa Wallace to facilitate our conversation today. Many of us know her as a fierce advocate in this community for families and youth, and she's also working on a special firearms reduction project that the police department is doing. So we'll be happy to answer questions at the end. We're just going to talk about 3 different questions and kind of share the information back and forth. I will sit where you tell me to.
Thanks, Sherry. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, we have strict instructions on time, so we're going to get started. I don't want to answer to Carolyn as a guest. All right, we're going to start the panel. From your perspective, what is the magnitude of the domestic violence crisis in Yakima County? Let's start with Prosecutor Brusick.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us. This is a hugely important issue to all of us up here and to every one of you in our community. This is quite an honor. It is what I've said for years as your Yakima County prosecuting attorney is that there are 3 main drivers of crime from my perspective, and I think, and I can speak on behalf of our office, which is drugs, domestic violence, and gangs. And domestic violence is pervasive in our community. You just heard what Sherry said. It's incredible the amount of domestic violence cases that we have. Judge Boswell was a prosecutor in our office until he took the bench last year, and he was the supervising attorney of our sexual assault unit, which involves domestic violence. The problem is domestic violence, especially intimate partner violence, deals with families, deals with the intimacy within our homes, and we as prosecutors, and I'll get to this in a minute as we go through, it is a pervasive problem in probably, well, put it to you this way, currently we have 14 felony prosecuting attorneys, and 5 of those 14 deal with these cases directly and sexual assaults. It is pervasive.
So most of you know I come from Denver. I was in the Denver Police Department for almost 30 years. Spent a lot of time in the domestic violence unit as a detective, as a sergeant, later on all the way up to deputy chief. So I'm pretty familiar with the issue. And of course, Denver's a big city. And Denver population is between 800 and 850,000. And Joe probably remembers this. I think I've heard him talk about it. When I got here, I said to him, I have never seen anything like this. And we're a town of less than 100,000. And some of the cases that I was being confronted with right away would, and I said this, right, Joe? Yep. They would lose their mind in Denver with some of the cases that are just sort of routine here. And so just numerically, and I'll be really quick, we had at the peak, and I've got some great news I'll share later, but at the peak we had about 3,500 domestic violence filings. That means cases we brought to the prosecutor in Yakima. Domestic violence and gang incidents are less than 300. So that's just to kind of put it in perspective, because you typically, at least 2 years or more ago, all you ever heard about was gang violence. But this is clearly a much bigger issue just from a numerical standpoint. Judge?
I guess I have the microphone. I'll talk. Jared Boswell, also honored to be here. And I guess you don't want to overstate the problem, but it is the greatest problem in this community, unfortunately. Paying attention and educating others about the problem and not being afraid to talk about it, because it is something that just needs to be brought out and have the spotlight shine on it.
Well, one statistic we were given at our judge retreat over the last weekend was that we have over 2,000 open criminal cases right now, and those are felonies. And I can tell you, we don't have exact numbers, but I can tell you that an overwhelming part of that caseload is domestic violence. There is no doubt about it. Since I have taken the bench, I have seen it firsthand. It's an overwhelming problem, and there are repeat offenders. There are people that jail doesn't seem to be a deterrent. There are people that have no problem violating court orders. So we will put a court order in effect restraining parties from having contact, and even though the jail calls, they know going into it, the jail calls are recorded, they have no problem violating those orders. The level of domestic violence and the description of it it's it's very hard to comprehend. We're talking about strangulation, we're talking about punching, we're talking about just some very severe events that we see. And what is extremely difficult about that is that kids are normally present. And it's also true, too, that the victims and the offenders a lot of times had this happen going on in their own families. And so it's generational here. And as an attorney or prior attorney and now judge and someone who's been part of the legal system for so many years here, I've seen children of people that, you know, that I used to represent, their parents are now grown up and they're engaging in the same dynamics of this. And so it's complex, it's complicated, is what we're also saying. So we talk about gang violence, it intersects. Domestic violence, gang violence intersects. A lot of times kids join gangs because they're hopeless because of what's going on at home. So it's an enormous problem for our community. It's overwhelming. We need to have different strategies than what we have now. I think our county spends an overwhelming amount of money on it. And it's just something that we as a community need to come together and figure out together and work together. And we do have some ways of doing that we've been brainstorming. And so we'll look forward to hearing more about that later.
So I mentioned some of our statistics in the introduction, and one of the things, this county, this community has always had groups of people coming together to discuss this issue. But what I saw really happen over the pandemic was a renewed effort for different systems to come together and transform themselves. So the prosecutor, the police department, the courts, even us at the YWCA really took a hard look at what we're doing, how we can do it differently or how we can do it better together. And I think what is coming out of that is more information and understanding beyond just the basic things that we all know. And out of that, what we've discovered is Yakima actually has the highest rated domestic violence in the state of Washington. And those are based on some of this police statistical research that's been done. So if you think about, many people don't ever call the police. The majority of the people who come to the YWCA never called the police. So there's 14,000 people that come to us have not maybe had any interaction with the police. So we know that the number of people suffering is even deeper than what we're talking about today. And I also wanted to share that in 2023, what we saw happening is our crisis calls, the number of people calling our hotline has gone from a typical 500 calls a month up to over 1,000. Can you imagine your own phone ringing 1,000 times a month with people that are in desperate, hurting situations? And we also, in 2023, people always hear the YWCA is full, there's no space for women and children that need to come in, and sadly that's been that way for a long time. And in 2023, when someone called and needed shelter on their first call, there were over 1,000 people we could not bring into shelter who really needed a safe place to go. And so one of the efforts that we are doing at the YWCA is to work toward raising $18 million to renovate the old St. Elizabeth Nursing School building for additional emergency shelter. And we don't want to do that. $18 million is a lot of money. But when our community is suffering, there has to be some places where people can go to have a little break from what's happening and figure out what they want to do next.
That's a good segue. I'm going to tip it right back to you, Sherry. Okay, panel, why don't you tell the Rotarians what is currently being done to address this crisis?
Well, one of the things I'm continually amazed is in the, well, I should start over. So during the pandemic, Chief Murray called me, and you never know what's going to happen when you're called to the chief's office. And so I wasn't sure what he was going to say to me. But what has come out of that is an effort of people from not only the courts, law enforcement, social services, but churches, Other individuals in the community have been meeting every month for more than 2 years now, and looking at how we can work differently together. So one example of that is, and I'm sure the chief is going to talk about that, when his officers are on the scene, there comes a time where they have to call the YWCA, and we're a part of what's happening right in the heat of the moment. We also are doing that with the prosecutor's office. We have special phone line. I call them the BAT phones. So we know when those phones ring, it's not just somebody in the community calling, it's one of our colleagues and friends, and we need to hop to it and see what else we can do.
Okay, I will jump in then. I want to say, what I'm going to do is just be really quick and just give you all some numbers, because I think that's really important. I think, I appreciate what Sherry's saying. I think all of us up here really did an overhaul on a lot of things. I think one of the great things about the coalition is it holds each other accountable, and it's public, and it's been in the media, so I'm sure a lot of you have seen that. And I just couldn't be prouder of the work that that team does. They actually meet every single morning. Joe's office does, my people, a lot of folks from that team, and they actually look at every single case and try to make a decision on how do we best approach this case. So it's a dramatic shift that's occurred in Yakima over the past 3 years. And so what I want to share with you is some actual numbers that I think are just amazing. So crime is down in Yakima, and it's 3 years of data that I'm going to be talking about. One of the things that we did, you all might remember, I got a lot of grief for it, but we talked about the book Don't Shoot as it involves gangs. Well, we've applied the same strategy to the domestic violence program. And the author of that book, David Kennedy, has actually been amazing. He reached out to us and he's given us a lot of advice, and we've had some meetings with him. And one of the things he said is, don't measure the number of incidents and make that your benchmark. Because if you do this well, you're going to get more people who wouldn't have come to you that come to you and say, I need help. And so, I think everyone here would probably agree with that. Shake your head, please, Judge. I think it's very true. And so, that's not the benchmark. But what they did say is, look for injury. We had a year, 3 years ago, Sherry, 4 or 5 homicides were domestic violence. Far more homicides from domestic violence than gang violence. Then we had a year with 0. Last year we had 1, but it was somebody who was playing with a gun, shot through a wall, and it killed their partners. So that's domestic violence, but it wasn't motivated by a fight. It was somebody doing something dumb. So domestic violence, aggravated assaults, so shooting, stabbing, serious bodily injury, they're down 27% in 1 year. Handle with care, I hope you've heard about that. If you haven't, you got to, because is Trevor here? The school district has just done, an amazing job with Handle with Care. And it's basically when officers encounter children in traumatic experiences, we notify the school that night. And the next day, the school district knows, they don't know exactly what happened, but they know this child needs to have some special attention. Our numbers are staggeringly bad. 1,837 kids were reported to Handle with Care in 2022. The good news is this year is a 13% reduction and a 9% reduction in the actual number of children that have to do with Handle with Care. So I think the next question is going to be about the future. So just ask everybody to remember what I just told you, those Handle with Care numbers and the reduction. So when I talk about the future, that's going to be important.
Do you want to talk about the map that's up on the screen?
What you're seeing on the wall was also created out of the Domestic Violence Coalition. This is real-time data that you can get right now on your phone if you want to. It's also a very big push towards transparency. And that is on the Yakima Police Department's transparency page and data information page. And you can drill down to a level that you can't believe. But if you look at the map, I'll just say this. That's not just the east side of Yakima. I bet you can find your neighborhood in that map. And that's really important because a lot of folks tend to think this is a them problem, that it's a we problem. And we go to houses of judges and prosecutors and police, and domestic violence touches everybody. Do you know that domestic violence is directly tied to animal cruelty? This issue is really, really big in crime. When Joe said that this is probably the biggest driver, and I think you're right, drugs is also right there. I don't know how you differentiate, but it's a huge deal. So yeah, this data is available at any time to all of you, and we use it in our decision making and all the things we do.
Thank you, Chief. Well, first of all, I want to commend the Yakima Police Department and the Chief for what they've done with the Domestic Violence Coalition. We're all intimately involved in that. And it has been a success from my perspective, and I support it. We support it as an office. The triage of the cases, the dealing, as soon as possible. I think one of the greatest ways to prevent or to deal with domestic violence is to deal with it immediately. We were not doing that very effectively before. We have been doing that the last several years, and I think that we are making very clear strides in trying to attack this problem. What the question is from Lisa is what are we doing about it? The Yakima County Prosecutor's Office, number one, provides not just the prosecution of criminal cases that are submitted to us for charging and then subsequent prosecution, but we provide support and legal guidance, and we take part in all the things that have all the different aspects and parts that you see up here and more. We're involved in the system, making the system work. And I think really what you get down to is the partnership that we have with all the agencies, with Sherry, with Chief Murray, with all the law enforcement agencies. The Yakima County Prosecutor's Office deals with all the law enforcement agencies in Yakima County, not just the city of Yakima. Last year in 2023, we had involving intimate partner cases at the district court, juvenile court, and adult Superior Court level. We had 663 cases. Half of those are still pending resolution. Of those 663 cases that we got last year from all the agencies, YSO, YPD, all the municipal agencies that involve felony behavior, we only no charge filed 20 cases. So we are being, and one way that we partner is we try to be as aggressive as we can with domestic violence issues, with cases, especially intimate partner cases. And that's really important to know because we're doing our level best. As we know, to attack these problems, there are three ways to do it, and that is prevention, intervention, and suppression. Chief Murray and I and other law enforcement agencies really focus or have traditionally focused on suppression. But that's the back third, right? We're reactive to crime. What we want to try to do is get more into the intervention and prevention. Those are the most time-consuming, the most resource-driven, they're the most difficult, but they get the greatest bang for the buck. And that's what we hopefully try to do as partnering up here. And the only way that we can combat the problem of domestic violence is truly communication, in my humble opinion, and working together as agencies, as law enforcement, as prosecution, because that's the only way that we're going to make a dent. Because of that intimate partner value, the family value, the inside the house, what we recognize in our respective roles is that it cuts across every socioeconomic boundary. The reality is that, just as Chief said, every one of us either have been part of it, have seen it, know about it, know a friend or family member. It is pervasive, and it is pervasive in our community. And so what we try to do is be aggressive, prosecuting these cases to the best of our ability, and that's difficult because it's a complicated process. But the only way this works is through things such as the Domestic Violence Coalition, where we get together, we talk, we communicate, and we make sure that we understand what each other is doing to try to correct the problem.
I think that's actually a good segue. We're gonna move the question along, and you can give your feedback on the other one if you want. But what can Rotarians and community members be doing to help address this? Individually, what can we be doing? Judge?
Oh, okay. Well, we were brainstorming this morning in our Rotary board meeting about, what can Rotarians do about this issue and other chronic issues in our community? Because I feel like we all are together here because we want to serve our community and we want to help, but we are often it's a question mark about how do we help? How do we help domestic violence victims, or how do we address this problem ourselves as Rotarians in our community? I think it would be extremely helpful to be able to form a network where we all can contribute something to this issue. So let me be more specific. So, for example, the shelter serves specific victims who have specific needs, and this organization can help with a lot of things, the YWCA, but there are things that they can't help with, or that would be something we could help with. For example, if someone's car broke down, do we have someone here that could help with car repair? If someone's housing is not quite up to par, You know, if someone has a broken window, if someone needs some repair inside the house, you know, what can we do to help that family? Because what it comes down to, and I think what we're saying up here, is the individual family's needs. A lot of times victims go back to what they know because it's a matter of survival, right? They need something. So they need the car to get somewhere. They need some place to live. They need financial help. They need something. There's a wealth of resources, information, knowledge in this room, and we need to put it to use so that we can make a dent in this, with this issue ourselves. So we're looking forward to moving that idea forward, and we've talked about it a little bit here at our board meeting this morning, and so I think that's going to be really significant. What can we do individually and collectively to contribute? I would say that as a court system, what I want to say about what can we do, I think as a judge, I'm always extremely aware, especially in protection order hearings, where someone's coming to seek protection from our system, someone who feels intimidated, someone who might feel that the court system might not help them, someone who sees it as a last resort, someone who's been through it through the abuse for a long time and is finally coming to our court system. And I'm always extremely mindful about the response that I give them, about how I explain things, about how I address them, about how I make them feel in a courtroom. Because I think that's extremely important, because unless they feel like they can get redress, protection from the criminal system, from the police, from the court system, that's going to be a huge intervention into what's going on. So then that part I'm always extremely mindful as a judge.
And I'm sure Mr. Brusick and Chief will talk about this, but I also think what everyone in this room can do is just involve yourself. And I don't say that to mean, you know, if you see somebody getting hit, you know, go jump in and stop it. You got to be worried about your own safety as well and what's going on. But, you know, document it. Call law enforcement. Write a statement. Be a witness. Be the person that this victim might not be able to be because of survival, right? You know, it's very easy for people to say, you know, if I was abused, I would just leave the relationship. And that's just not reality. That isn't reality, because it is about survival. It's about, and quite frankly, children that are involved in the relationship as well. You know, what's going to happen with the children if I leave? I can't survive on my own out here. So I can't, even though he's been hitting me, I can't send him to jail because now I don't have money. I don't have a paycheck. I don't have all these other things. So everyone in this room, if you see something, call law enforcement. Document it however you can. You know, be willing to be a witness so the victim may not have to. You know, with the bench, you know, we're looking from a perspective that's different from law enforcement and the prosecutor's office. You know, we're looking to be fair and impartial, and we have to listen to both sides, because there's always two sides to the coin. You know, so when people come in for protection order hearings, it's not enough for them to say, I want it. You know, they have to be able to present a legal reason for me to grant that protection order. You know, whether that be through their testimony or through that declarations from witnesses or pictures, even if their pictures are 10 years old. You know, just documenting and educating the people. And I think that's something that everybody here can do to help this problem. Is one, you know, putting the spotlight on it. Don't be afraid to talk about it. And two, involve yourself. I think a lot of times people think that's somebody else's problem, or I don't want to get involved. Get involved. You know, get involved. Be somebody who can help out these individuals that are going through this terrible thing.
Okay, so I will say, I told you I was going to talk about this a tiny bit. I think it's really, really important. Judge Drew hit on it. We discovered something, I guess it's logical, but we didn't know we were going to discover it, and it's just been fascinating. I think it's been fascinating to all of us, and that is this. When we were looking at the gang, because that's where we started. We started with the gang stuff and employed this strategy, which has been dramatically successful, by the way, and it's a city success. It's not a police success. It's not Joe's success. It's a collaborative success, and I think that's really important to say. But what we did was we looked at who are the most likely to shoot or be shot. And you guys, of that group, only 2 didn't have domestic violence as a child. Only 2. What does that tell you? This is how you make a gang member. It's not just turning to gangs because of this. It's because you're creating it. You are creating an environment where they learn how to deal with all conflict with violence. And there's a small percentage in a bell curve that goes to extreme violence. So when you see the reduction in gang numbers, that is directly related to how we address domestic violence. They are absolutely tied together. So one of the things that I'm going to say is, how can you help? Well, I'm probably going to give you a little bit of an unconventional answer, but those of you who know me, Yvette's over there probably going, oh, what is he going to say now? Okay, I'm going to tell you something. Your prosecutor just told you that he had over 600 domestic violence cases and only 20 weren't charged. So the next time you hear people say the prosecutor doesn't do anything, stand up for the prosecutor. I'm not kidding. When you hear the courts,
Here's $20.
when you hear the courts just let everybody go, and Jeff Swan is back there, and that's probably true in his court. I'm kidding, Judge. That's not true. They are doing their part, and what we all need, to be honest, is some support, and you have a strong voice in this community. And one thing you can do to help is push back a little bit. We're trying to fight a battle, and we kind of need some support, and we need to know that you all know we really are working at this. Nobody's trying to undermine the system and let people go, but that becomes the narrative, and then that narrative becomes something we're fighting, and now we're fighting on two fronts. So I'm just being honest. As the chief, as the prosecutor, as a judge, it's nice to hear, hey, we got your back, we agree, we believe you. We know you're doing your best, and you're all trying to work together. We don't always get it right, but we really could use support.
Well, it's hard to beat that. Thank you. But I want to
You might have to
reiterate
pull us off the
it very
stage.
strongly. What's that?
I said, I think we're running long, so I just said to Aaron, you might have to pull us off the stage, because we'll keep you all day.
I just got 2 minutes.
Okay, go right ahead.
What the chief said is absolutely true. We come to work every day to be accountable to you, all of us. And we read these crimes on paper when they're investigated. They submit them to the prosecutor's office, and we want to fully prosecute these cases. They're exceptionally difficult. Intimate partner violence is exceptionally difficult because oftentimes the victim in these cases does not want to help us out after the first 24 hours. They don't want to testify. They don't want to cooperate. They're willing to lie under oath. And so please understand that we do care immensely. I can say for me, I grew up in this community. I've moved back to this community after going to school on the west side. I've raised 4 children and married a woman from this community. I would give my life for this community, and these cases are the worst of the worst. So please know that we do our damnedest to help you, each and every one of you. I would say simply cooperation with us in every facet. Support, understanding, backing us up, whether it be verbally, whether you take action. Being part of the system that makes it work is what we need from you. Thank you.
I will just close with 2 things that I would implore you to do. Is every single one of us knows somebody who's been through domestic violence. I don't believe there's not one person here that doesn't know a family, a friend, a neighbor, somebody in our church, somebody in our coworker. You're an employer, your employees are going through it. And just asking, how are you, goes a really long way. And asking it without judgment and seeing what people need. The other thing I would like to offer is anyone who wants to come to the YWCA, we do meet with people and give them tours of our building, talk about what we're trying to do with the other building, the St. Elizabeth's Nursing School. And it really does take every single one of us in this community to step up a little bit and care about each other. And it really comes down to that. And we know that victims are reluctant to leave the relationship. Where are they going? Some of them are going to poverty. I mean, we have people all across the spectrum of income levels that come to our YWCA. But the one thing they share in common is no control over the family finances. So you might be in a family that has a lot of wealth, and when you leave, you have nothing. So people are making a lot of critical choices, and we're training our youth over and over. Like, this is generational forever since the beginning of time. So what can we in Yakima do to disrupt that? And I think we can do a lot, and it takes every single voice to do that. And I look forward to us all working together.
Thank you all. I'm sorry for going over time, Carolyn.
Boy, you guys are good. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. I think most people know that I have a history with the YWCA, being able to serve there as a team member. And I just really appreciate the work that you're doing as a coalition, because working together creates a stronger impact in this community. And you mentioned it on stage here that that knowing what each other is doing helps coordinate those efforts. And the other thing is that it's not about throwing money at the problem, right? That's not, when we say we can collectively make a change, we always right away think, oh my gosh, I'm being asked for money. Yeah, that helps, yes, but there's a lot more we can do. And so I'll leave you with this, that let's say you have an appointment with a CPS agent because they're telling you you have to meet certain guidelines to keep your children. And you have an appointment with CPS and you go out to get in your car and your abuser just slashed your tires. And you can't make that appointment, or you can't make it to work on time, and you've already missed work 10 times and got warned. That's how drastic this can be. And it's as simple as, help me change my tire, or giving that tire. So as soon as someone calls 911, they start a chain reaction of events that just create so much complication. And that's why we're seeing so many people that aren't even calling and asking for help. Sorry, I can't help myself. But thank you for everything you guys are doing. You're doing great work, important work. And as thank you to you, I'd like to make a donation to the YWCA in honor of all of you, to as a thank you gift for speaking today. If you have questions or comments, do you have time to stick around a little bit so people can find you in the crowd? And our next week we'll have Debbie Horton and Graham Tobias, Johnny Cash, the official concert experience. And then following that, February 1st, we will be celebrating Black History Month. We'll have Raymond Santana here, who is one of the exonerated 5, one of the 5 youth who were wrongly accused of rape in Central Park. And he will be not only in Yakima all day, but he'll also be at Central Washington University. And the great thing about this is that we're doing it in cooperation with Central Washington University, Downtown Yakima Rotary Club, OIC of Washington, Celerity Credit Union, and the Yakima school districts. And he will be visiting various groups in the schools, here at our Rotary Club, in the community, and at Central Washington University, where we're showing as Rotarians that we like to partner and coordinate and share a message throughout Central Washington. Anyway, that is the end of our meeting. We have no committee meetings, and meeting is adjourned.